Hi, my name is Rebecca McKee, and today I'll be talking about iNaturalist, which is a citizen science app, and speaking a little bit more broadly about how citizen science can be an excellent learning opportunity for students. So what's the problem? With science, there's often big questions that require a lot of data to answer, and so that data needs to be collected, entered, managed, and processed before those questions can even be remotely answered. At the same time, there's often lack of funding for science, and so many questions can't be answered just with the scientists alone. So citizen science is an excellent answer to bridge that gap and to try and create additional hands to get at some of these questions and enact some of the conservation work that is needed. So it's definitely a system that predates technology and the internet, but one example of that would be like a sea turtle patrol where volunteers go out at specific times of day and record whether or not they see tracks so that researchers can then go out and protect those nests after a sea turtle has been detected. So those were great opportunities, but now technology has made even more opportunities available to a wider audience. So previously, if you wanted to get involved with marine science, you would have had to be present in a coastal community to work on those issues. But now with the internet, you can log on online and actually work on this from the comfort of your home, training a computer to be able to detect plastics in marine litter so that we can better estimate how much marine debris there is and find ways of cleaning that up. In addition, these citizen science projects previously were much more kind of regionally focused and limited in scale, but now with the internet you can work on issues that have global impacts such as climate change. And on the right here I have featured a sample of one of the citizen science projects that allows you to count cells to help people track climate change over millions of years. So now anyone, anywhere can work on any topic that interests them. So Citizen Science 3.0 is the next level of that. Instead of just reviewing camera trap footage or someone's data that is already collected, you actually get to collect your own data. And iNaturalist is one of the apps that allows you to do that. So it's an app that is supported by National Geographic and is used by a number of partners worldwide, including the IUCN, which is responsible for managing a lot of the policy around rare and endangered animals. So a lot of big players in the game with this app, and it is, as I mentioned, global, so all over the world, different science organizations are using this data. So how does it work? So it's an app that is available online and it works on your smartphone for no cost, so very widely accessible. And so all you need to do is download the app onto your smartphone and take photos of whatever you're observing. So once you've taken those photos, you're able to upload them, and it pulls the time and location that you collected the photo, so that's recorded, and then you can submit it. Even if you're not sure what it is, there is a community that reviews them and also verifies any records that you did identify to ensure that they're correct. So, then once that's done, you have basically collaborated with thousands of people to help increase the data set of wildlife and plant sightings. In addition, it is a community, so you can see other records that are near you. On the far screen here, I have a map image from my phone that shows data points that other people collected around me. So does it actually work? Do people actually use this? So this is a screenshot that I took recently, earlier this week, and at that time there had been over 5 million observations logged, and those included 115,000 species by over 100,000 observers. So this is a really widespread usage, as you can see by the map here. The grayed areas are areas where records have come from, so you can see that it spans across the entire globe in the number of entries. But, if everyone's entering data and no one's using anything from it, you could argue that it's still not really working. So I looked into literature to see if anything's actually come of all these entries and if this information is actually being used. And one of the things I found is that within a 2-month period, scientists were able to collect 90% of global amphibian families photographed. So that means that they needed to collect these georeferenced photographs of amphibians due to a global decline, and that would have taken somebody years and years of their career to go around and to photograph all these different species, and within 2 months, the crowdsourcing enabled that 11% of known species had a photograph and a georeference for that photograph, just by outsourcing that to citizens. At the same time, there is also a lot of features with the data improvement. So if no one's actually improving the data, then you could argue that that's not really an effective component of the app. So somebody looked at that to see, what percent of the records actually end up getting improved and verified. And they found that nearly 60% were improved by other users. So that means the majority of the records are actually being reviewed and improved by users. On the side of the screen here is a record I actually submitted, and I identified it to the species level, which is a box turtle. And somebody actually went through behind me and identified it to the subspecies level. And so you can see that I accepted their edit, and that is why my original ID is crossed out and their identification to the subspecies level has been accepted. In addition, because it is an online platform, you do have to be concerned about the safety and balancing, privacy of the people participating versus the needs of being able to have as much information as possible. So one study looked at how iNaturalist and, just different citizen science and similar platforms were protecting their participants' identities and personal information. And they found that it was overall pretty good compared to many of the others. That said, if you are working with minors, this is a mobile device app, and there is certain requirements for age. So it's something you definitely want to look into before you just encourage your students to pick it up at home. So more broadly, citizen science is really effective. Bonney et al. Found that there were countless different advances made due to scientific knowledge gained from citizen science contributions. And some just examples of that were range shifts for different species, population trends, especially different demographic factors that were true in different parts of the range. And if you're one scientist, it's really hard to get that information from a range level just because you can't be in all those places at once. But when you employ citizen scientists, you're able to capture as much of that information through those different people, and that gives you a much broader view of the issue you're actually trying to look at. So on top of everything else, there was a study that looked at, what is the outcome for the participants, the people who are actually collecting the data, the citizens themselves. And they looked at the scientific literacy before and after they were participating in these projects. And they found that participating in citizen science projects improved the scientific literacy and critical thinking of those that were participating. So it's not only good for the scientific community and the communities that benefit from the science, but also the people who are actively participating in the process themselves. So, just to recap, I think that this app is a great way to contribute to global biodiversity research. It's really easy to use, and it's very wide in application. So regardless of what you're specifically interested in or what your knowledge base is, it's an easy way to jump in and just begin contributing from the convenience of your phone. There are so many topics, though, that are available online. So if this one doesn't perfectly fit the scope of what you're trying to accomplish in your classroom, there's so many others that do. Like if you're running a unit on cells or plants or whatever it may be, it's a very easy task to find something online that fits it. And I would really encourage you to visit the Citizen Science Alliance website that I featured earlier in one of my other slides for ideas on different topic areas of study. And I think that that's really important to do, not only because it's a cool activity for your students, but because it really re-emphasizes the 4Cs, especially collaboration and communication, because in science, if data isn't communicated, it's not necessarily useful. And so I think that reinforces to the students that you need to not only, learn science and collect data, but also emphasizes the importance of getting that data out there for other people to use. And alongside of that, more than anything else, it highlights the importance of collaboration, not just with their peers in their classroom, but with a broader community to try and answer some of these questions that are relevant to conservation, relevant to health, relevant to a whole range of issues that we can really participate in. Okay, so with that, thank you, and please contact me if you have any additional questions.